What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another picks and predictions for the week. This is Thanksgiving weekend. This is the last week of college sports until we get into the college championship weekend. So, first game we have on Thursday, Thanksgiving night, Ole Miss versus Mississippi State. I have Ole Miss winning this 35-20. I thought about putting a little bit higher just because Mississippi State isn't very good, but I will say it's a very quick turnaround, so Ole Miss players are going to be tired. I remember playing football and coming off on a Saturday or Friday, and then you have a quick game the next week. It can be kind of exhausting for these players, and I don't think they're going to go too hard. This is out of contention for the conference championship. They're out of discussion for the college football playoffs, so I don't think they're going to go too hard on the next game. We have Friday at noon, Black Friday games right here. We have Oklahoma, TCU. Oklahoma's been really keeping a lot of games close in the last couple weeks and last quite a while. So I don't think they're going to really blow anyone out. This minus 11.5 is ridiculous. I think TCU is a very good team when they're trying to keep it close. Remember that Texas TCU game was by like 3 points. Oklahoma has been letting teams just stay in the ball game. So I have Oklahoma winning 28-24, and it's going to be a very close game. I think Oklahoma's going to come out on top, but I do see TCU could possibly upset this and really throw a wrench into discussions of them trying to get to the Big 12 title game. Next Friday game, we have the Iowa Hawkeyes, and we all love the Hawkeyes here. And I have them winning 12-10. This over/under is crazy, 26.5. I think it was betted down from like 28 earlier this week, but I could be wrong. But it definitely has Nebraska trying to win this game. I don't think so. I think Iowa is still going to win. It's just going to be such a slow game, especially that mid-afternoon slot for the game over there in Omaha, Lincoln, Nebraska, and it's gonna be cold. it's gonna be a fun game, but 12-10 is my score. The next Friday afternoon game, we have Tulane versus UTSA. This is my first upset of the weekend. I have UTSA. They're going on a tear right now in the last few weeks. Tulane has been struggling. They've been killing teams stay in ball game the entire time. They even lost a ranking, went down to 24 from 23. So I think UTSA is going to win this 31-28, and then Tulane will be pretty much out of discussion for the New York Six Bowl because they're just not as good as they were previously, like last year. So I think teams like Liberty should have an opportunity to get into the New York Six Bowl. People keep talking about SMU. SMU has 2 losses. Like, why are we still talking about teams that have 2 losses in the group of 5? If you don't have 1 loss or undefeated, you should not be in discussion. Next game on Friday afternoon is a 4 o'clock Eastern time. We have Missouri versus Arkansas. I have Missouri. This is another one of those quick turnarounds, a 6-day turnaround, and Missouri's coming off a great win, a great time against Florida. It was really close, and I think Missouri's going to win this pretty wholeheartedly. They're going to easily cover that minus 7.5. I think they're going to win by like at least 10, maybe 12 points, maybe even go on a tear and do what they did to Tennessee, to Arkansas. They are away, so I did keep them reeled in. Keep them reeled in, 28-17. But it's not going to be a very good game to watch, I guess, because I don't think Arkansas is really good this year. They had a pretty decent start to the season, and then they just kind of tanked like Washington State. Next Friday, late night game, we have Texas versus Texas Tech. I originally had this as an upset just because Texas has been playing very iffy, but I also don't think Texas is like terrible. They do think Texas keeps teams in the game for no reason, and they've been keeping people in the game for the last like 4 or 5 weeks now. So I will say that they're going to consistently keep doing that. So I think Texas Tech is going to get like 24 points on them. It's going to be very close, maybe 1 score, 3 to 7 point game. It's definitely not going to be a blowout. Texas Tech isn't horrible. They are bowl eligible, so they do have really nothing to lose for this game, and they could rest up their players. But getting 7 wins is definitely better than having 6, so I think they're going to try to keep this game competitive, and there is a chance that they could potentially upset Texas and ruin their chances of getting to the college football playoffs. Next slow game here on Friday night is going to be Penn State versus Michigan State. I don't think anyone's going to really watch this game. I think Penn State's going to go in there, dominate the game. There's going to be no question. Michigan State is terrible this year. They lost their coach. Well, their coach wasn't really good anyway, so like even if they had their coach, I still think they would have been pretty bad. But they don't have a coach. They don't really have an offense. They don't have a defense. They're getting blown out by teams. So I think Penn State's going to win this easily, 35-plus points. This game of Friday night will be the 8:30 Eastern time, Oregon State versus Oregon. I know in my previous video, you can check that out if you wanted to, I talked about the potential that Arizona could make the Pac-12 championship, and it all comes down to this game. Oregon State needs to beat Oregon for Arizona to go to the Pac-12 championship game. But I do have Oregon winning this by 1 score. I do think that Oregon State is a very good football team this year. They lost to Washington by like 2 points, very similar to how Oregon lost to Washington by like 1 score. I think Oregon State has an opportunity here to try to upset Oregon, but I do think that Oregon has a more explosive offense, very more explosive defense than Oregon State, and they're at home, so not only do they get the home field advantage, Oregon State's coming on the road. They're coming off that loss to Washington. They're down the dumps, have a chance to go to the Pac-12 championship, and I think they're going to keep it very competitive. I don't think Oregon's going to win by 22 points. If I was a betting man, I would definitely bet the plus 22 on this because I think it's going to stay close. This is a very competitive rivalry game, and then next year I don't know what they're going to do with the rivalry game and how they're going to handle that if they even continue to play. So this is a very big deal for the Oregon State fans, Oregon State players, because they don't know if they're going to play Oregon every year because next year they don't even play Oregon. So like, are they going to play the year after that? Who knows? But there's going to be a very competitive game. It's going to be very exciting. It's going to be a very cool environment, especially that Friday night. It's going to be awesome. Moving on to the Saturday lineup, the first game of the weekend. I don't know why they do this in the middle of the day. They should do this at night. 2 versus 3, noon o'clock. The -3.5. I have Ohio State winning. Michigan, like last week, I guess like last year, the same kind of concept with the game before Ohio State, they had a struggle. Definitely showed some cracks in the armor there for Michigan. It helps Ohio State get some ammo for some like flaws and areas. And I think Ohio State's a more experienced team. But Michigan does have a really explosive quarterback. Ohio State's QB situation's a little iffy, but they have one of the best wide receivers in the league. So all you need is a guy who can throw the ball, like ish. But I do have them winning 31-28. I think Ohio State's going to make that comeback run where they did lose to Michigan the last 2 years, but I think Ohio State's going to come out on top of this. They do have better analytics. They are number 1 in FBI versus Michigan at number 2. So I think Ohio State's time to shine is the return to form, and they're going to go on to play Iowa in the Big Ten Championship game. The noon o'clock game we have is Louisville versus Kentucky. I have Louisville winning this. Louisville is a better team. Kentucky isn't very good this year. I originally, at the beginning of the season, thought that Louisville was going to have a great time when Kentucky gets down to that bottom, because Kentucky would have been ranked, would have been another ranked team on their belt. But Kentucky have shown that they have not been very good this year. They were ranked 1 week in the AP poll, and then they instantly lost it. So I think Louisville is going to come on top and then use this to propel them into the ACC championship game against Florida State, which I think is going to be very competitive. Next noon clock game we have is LSU versus Texas A&M. This is going to be boring. I wouldn't even watch this. LSU's going to dog them 42-14, easy. The -11, it doesn't even matter. I think LSU's going to win this by a lot because Texas A&M isn't very good. LSU is very explosive. They have a really good QB in the Heisman run, and I think they're just going to keep blowing teams out that aren't good. 3 o'clock, we have Utah versus Colorado. The Colorado situation, the Colorado Coach Prime hype has been over for weeks now, but if Colorado somehow figures out how to block, because their quarterback has been sacked like 40-some times, and that's not good. That's terrible. And their defense is abysmal. I think Utah is going to run away with this game. It's going to be 35+, maybe 40 points. Colorado might score 10 points. And if the Colorado's quarterback, it's the son of Coach Prime, if he still is kind of hurt like last week, he's still feeling that pain, they're definitely not going to be performing at the highest level. 3 o'clock game, 3:30. I originally was going to have Auburn win this game. I really love watching the Iron Bowl. There's some good years, like 2013. That field goal return, that was so exciting. But I do have Alabama winning this 24-21. I don't think Alabama's going to blow Auburn out at home. I think this is going to be a very competitive game. Playing in the Auburn Stadium is very hard. Auburn has been really good at home against really talented teams. They were 1 score against Georgia at home. They were 1 score against Ole Miss at home. So why can't it be 1 score against Alabama at home? Alabama has been better than they were at the beginning of the season, but this is a rivalry game, cross states. And I think Auburn is going to stay in this game. There could be even a chance that Auburn even upsets Alabama, just because how deep rooted this rivalry is. Next rivalry game we have is Arizona State. I don't think this is going to be very competitive. I know it's a rivalry game. It's all generally really close, but Arizona is really good this year, and Arizona State is really bad. And Arizona State is pretty much a high school team, like I've been saying for weeks. Arizona's going to come in here. They're going to score a lot of points. I think it's going to be like 28, 35 points. I do think Arizona State's going to try to hold in there as long as they can, but eventually it's just going to break around like probably like the end of the second quarter, beginning of the third quarter, and then Arizona's just going to take away with it. This is the afternoon game. We have Vanderbilt versus Tennessee. Vanderbilt is probably one of the worst SEC teams in the league, in their conference. Tennessee's going to run away with this game. I have it at 45-7, but that number could literally be anything. I think Vanderbilt's going to score either maybe a touchdown, maybe a field goal, maybe both. Just around like under 10 points. Another I think could be enjoyable. I don't know if Oklahoma State's going to still be ranked. They did win against Houston. It was a very close game until about the end when Oklahoma State kind of scored a little bit more points. But I do think that they might still be at 23. I don't think they're going to move up at all. And BYU is not very good, but Oklahoma State has been keeping a lot of teams close, so I'm just going to have them winning by like 11. It's not going to be a very fun game to watch, I guess, unless BYU holds in there and like really, really competes and then keeps it one-score game, then it could be very interesting. But I do have Oklahoma State coming out on top just because BYU has a track record this year of not really being able to finish out games, and when they do keep it close, they end up losing. Next late afternoon game we have is a Washington State game. Washington, since the game before Oregon, I think it was Cal, every single win has been one score. Every single one, except for Stanford, which was 9 points. Every win has been under 10 points. So I guess like the minus 16.5 is reasonable since Washington's a better team. But with that in mind, every single game has been 9 or less points, mostly 7, maybe 8, all one-score games. So I have them winning by 7. I have them winning by 7 points, 31-24. It could go higher because Washington State does have a pretty explosive offense. When they were on that tear, that 4-0 run, they were scoring a lot of points. They did score a lot of points against Colorado, so it's not like they're unable to score a lot of points, kind of like Iowa. But Washington defense is fairly decent, so I don't think they're going to go too hard at it, like 40 plus points, like with Oregon or something. But I do think they're only going to win by one score. They did have that really close one against Oregon State last week, a 2-point game, and it's coming off. And I think it's going to be a very close game. I think it's going to be very competitive, cross-state rivals. Again, this is probably one of the games that I would watch over the weekend. I don't think it's going to be -6. That's one of those unders that if I was a betting man, I would probably bet, just because historically, in the last 7 weeks, Washington's only won by less than 9 points. This is my upset alert. Florida State, I think I have them losing to Florida at home. In Florida State's case, Florida State has been playing it really, really close with a lot of teams, and they're playing with fire. And I think Florida, in particular, has been at the forefront of opportunity. Florida has beaten Tennessee, kept it close with Missouri, one score, kept it close with LSU up until the very end when LSU finally started scoring more points. But Florida is not a bad team. They're just inconsistent. They just can't finish games. And I think this is going to be that rivalry game where they will finish it, and they'll win by a field goal, maybe less. And Florida State will get their first loss of the season to a unranked 6-5 Florida team, just because Florida State has not been playing well. Their quarterback situation is on the back burner, and they're not going to have a leader out there. Next late night game we have is Notre Dame versus Stanford. And it's not going to be a very interesting game at -25. I have 40-10 here. It could be any arbitrary number here. I think Stanford's going to maybe score 10 points, maybe less. It's not going to be very competitive. It's going to be an easy win for Notre Dame to finish out the season. Next rivalry game, late night, we have Georgia Tech versus Georgia. In Georgia Tech, that's not going to matter. I was trying to figure out a reason why Georgia Tech could stay in this game. Georgia Tech has not been performing well. I guess they beat Miami, but Miami isn't ranked anymore since they beat them when they were ranked. So Georgia is going to win this easily, 42-20. The -23 is kind of high. I think Georgia Tech could score some points. I think they might score some points early, like every team that does on Georgia, like maybe a touchdown early, and they're going to get the hype, and everyone's going to turn on the channel, and then Georgia's going to take off, and it's going to get really boring. I have NC State beating North Carolina here. I was originally not going to keep this flag because I don't think North Carolina's going to be ranked after their loss last week. And I have NC State winning 24-21. They're going to have they have matching records at this point, and I think NC State's a better team than North Carolina. I know the -2 for North Carolina is in favor, but NC State has been playing better. They've been more consistent. North Carolina has been up and down. We don't know what kind of team they are. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they going to be ranked? Are they going to stay ranked? And I don't think they are. I think they're going to be unranked this week, and NC State's going to beat them this week. Next late night game, we have Kansas State versus Iowa State. I have Kansas State easily winning this. It's in K-State, so Iowa State doesn't get that home field advantage like they did against Texas to keep that game close, and that they really need that because their situation is like very, very interesting because Iowa State was a Trojan horse. If they would have beat Texas and then they beat Kansas State, they would have gone to the Big 12 championship game. But since they lost that, I think they're going to be in their woes. They're not going to try it. It's going to be a very interesting game. I think there could be a potential for a really close game, but I do have K-State winning by at least 2 scores. Bonus content. We love bonus content here on the channel. I have Liberty here versus the UTEP Miners. I think Liberty should be the group of 5 team that's ranked and not Tulane, or at least both ranked. Liberty should be 25. Give the respect to where it is. I know the CUSA isn't very good, and I know most of the schedule on Liberty's play isn't very good either, but they are a Division I FBS school, and they should still get the respect they deserve. The entire conference is FBS. It's not like they're playing FCS schools out here over there in the CUSA. There are FBS teams, and they're given what they get, so they should get the opportunity to play against good opponents in a good bowl game instead of we're going to give you this crappy bowl. You're 12-0, maybe 13-0 if you win the championship, and then you're going to go on some random game and you're playing against Wyoming, who's 6-6. Like, no one wants that. No one wants to see that. I think Liberty should get the opportunity to play against some of the top Power 5 teams in the New Year's Six Bowl because they did win games, and winning games is hard. And that's just my rant for the day, and that's going to be it for this video. Peace. Like and subscribe.